Greetings! Welcome to the devlog for experimental build 4 of update 114 of hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start as always with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, we have been working along fixing a whole bunch of things related to night vision and night vision rendering, and have some cool new features to show you and some new scenes. So let's jump right into it. Let me get myself a fully loaded testing gun. Where to start? Well, the first thing is some things have been tweaked involving our head-mounted night vision, and one of those things, some folks have had mentioned, we have night vision on, even in scenes like this that are at sort of like twilight, where you can't really see the stars. The moment you put on night vision, oh my goodness, the view you get of the sky is amazing. And so that has been added as a feature. It's in this scene, and it's available for anyone who does modded night scenes as well. You can just ask me on the Discord if you need help implementing it. But let's pop this on. Bam! Look at that. Got the whole Milky Way there. This is, believe me, it looks cool on screen. It feels just downright magical in the headset. So yeah, so that's in there. You can see significantly better here, and some major changes were made to the night vision goggles themselves. And yeah, night vision goggles. I thought I said NVG goggles for a moment, which is a redundant Department of Redundancy department kind of acronym. Let's actually move to another scene. Last week's video was all about how we had this big difficulty involving floating point precision and the NVGs. Well, Ole has been hard at work all week, so let's go ahead and pop over to a brand new scene. Welcome to Dark Dooney. That is right, it is a very, very dark. I'm not actually sure how much you can even see on the YouTube video, because things always appear a little brighter in headset than in recording. We have a dark version of the Dooney range, which allows us to actually test and see that we can put some night vision on, and you'll notice that it isn't in fact sort of jittering around. Actually, I just realized, putting my hands up here, this is the other important thing that has been changed. A whole bunch of bright sort of UI objects in the game have been given a system that substitutes their materials when being seen through night vision. So you'll see that, like, the interaction ray is dark, the hands are dark, the gravity spheroids are bright, but that's because they're actually being seen through the night vision. So the fact that these are bright should not actually impact the auto gain of the headset at all. Man, that's cool. Still need to do, the health is still bright enough that it totally blows it out. That's a UI component, needs a little further work to make that function. But yeah, what's super cool is we can totally just grab some hand copters here and go to, or even just use this and go very, very far in away from the scene origin. Bammo! And we have no jittering at all. Everything behaves super, super well. Let's use these noisy things for a moment. So yes, we can just fly kilometers and kilometers away from the scene origin, and we get a super stable night vision view, which is just delightful and much needed, especially for folks who want to do, their various hijinks in large scenes, both the one here and the ones that I know that modders have made. Cool. Let's see what else to show off. In addition to Dark Dooney, we also have a return of the Spooky 45 scene, which, as you can see, is very, very dark. creepily. It's not perfectly actually pitch black is the funny thing. The night vision doesn't actually work if it's 100% black. It just has to be very, very dark. Incidentally, this is why night vision doesn't help in Meat Grinder currently, though I intend to fix that later. So let's go ahead and grab our goggles again and take a look at this scene. You can see just how dark it is. And I want to show off the other thing that I have been working on, which is our flashlight. Grab our standard flashlight. I'm going to grab this, toggle those up. So the first thing about the flashlight is instead of being just an on-off toggle, it now cycles through several different intensities. The draw range has been significantly increased, and I managed to fix its interaction with the foliage shaders, which is actually the reason that I originally got rid of the Spooky 45 scene, is I couldn't make flashlights work with it correctly. Well, I can now. Man, this is really unnerving. And we can cycle the intensity up further, which actually gives us a whole bunch of distance on it. The other thing that's been added on this is that we can grab the front of the flashlight and then rotate it and get a significantly tighter beam, which is super useful if you have the intensity all the way up high, because obviously this is just like disturbingly bright up close to be that bright at a distance. So you can adjust how much fill you want, and you can always put this directly into a quick belt slot and it will just naturally follow your head. You can actually reach down and just change how narrow or tight it is while it is riding around right in your chest slot. So super happy with how that looks, and honestly it feels, let's knock this down to its minimum setting. There we go. Minimum setting, nice and flooded. If we grab our NVGs and pop those down, yeah, doesn't that look so cool with the shadows and everything? Let's grab ourselves a rifle here. As I mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, it took me a while to come around to it, but I totally understand now, those of you who just really wanted, a night vision simulation in this game. It just feels so neat. Oh, and that actually reminds me, one of the things that this game has had a bit of a saga involving muzzle effect particles, lighting, and enabling them, disabling them, having the lights affect them. So basically, rendering and brightness of things like muzzle smoke and light was broken for a while because I had tried to fix particle rendering in another context. I then tried to disable it, was not successful at fully disabling it, but now particle luminance has been fixed, meaning that if I point this down here and I shoot the ground, if I shoot the ground here towards this, we can see the impact effect on the ground at the correct luminance. But if I say shoot it to the right here, away from the flashlight, we can see the muzzle flash, but we didn't see any of the smoke there. So this is now correctly rendering, which means I have re-enabled flashlights actually affecting muzzle smoke particles as they should, because they're now the correct amount of brightness. So let's move over here. The other flashlight, I'm not done with flashlights, by the way. There is still a bunch of work to do. If we come over here, let's grab ourselves, I don't know. Let's pull the SCAR out. Load that up. If we go over to attachments, into lasers and lights, I've only migrated one of the new flashlights over to new systems, which is the tactical flashlight here. But if we affix the tactical flashlight, and I'm going to put a suppressor on it so that we don't get muzzle flash, but just get the illumination. So, cool. Not seeing anything. We can grab this flashlight. We can, right now, the UI on this is terrible. I'm still working on it. You have to turn the gun to the side, and we can turn this on to be low, medium, or high in terms of intensity. Like so. And so you'll see there, we are indeed because the flashlight is right there. It is briefly lighting up those particles, but it is actually the correct amount of illumination for how bright the flashlight is. I haven't 100% decided if I'm going to keep it, but because it is a little bit annoying, but it is, from actual luminance standpoint, optically correct at this point. Maybe just a little too opaque. But yeah, so much better than it was before. Man, I cannot... Oh, I managed to reload that completely in the dark. Let's pop those down like that. Oh, and importantly, this tactical flashlight also can have the front of it grabbed to be made super narrow. So if you just want a really tight illumination, let's see if we can get this at an angle where it doesn't strike the gun. Maybe if we take this back off. There we go. Super cool. There's something just like deeply satisfying about using accurate simulations of various types of equipment that makes it easier to handle like difficult luminance situations like this. And the equipment all just like works together correctly. By the way, I'm aware that typically with NVGs, we would be pairing this not with a traditional flashlight, but with an IR illuminator. I am working on that. That functionality will go into the like ANPEQ 15 or whatever it is, probably in the next week or so. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Oh, and let's, I haven't actually tested this in this build, so this might break, but we should, quote-unquote, be able to see scopes through NVGs now. So let's make sure that that actually works. I don't know, classic 3 to 12. I don't know if my... Yep, there we go. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's turn that way up. Make our... Because we're wearing goggles, we got to throw that scope out much further. And where are we looking here? Let's get out of the light of the scene. I know there's a SOSIG up there somewhere. I might be zoomed in too much to be able to see it well. There we go. That's probably more reasonable. There's the gong. There he is. Out of ammo already. There's the gong. Can't hide from me, wiener! So there you have it. That is our NVGs working, and as I said, our new dark scenes. Oh, and actually there was one other scene that got a little bit of special treatment this week. And then the last scene that got a bit of playing around in the dark love is the indoor range. This ancient scene, which is so old that it was not even light-baked in Unity, it was baked in Maya, manually. And because of that, because it's so old and creaky and weirdly built, I was able to actually do some light trickery that I can't get away with in other Unity scenes, which is I put this light switch here, and we can hit this and turn the lights out, which actually dims the light coming off the item spawner here and dims all of the UI. Let's go ahead and pull out one of our goggles. Bammo! Perfect! Being creepy inside the indoor range. Grab ourselves a gun. Let's actually have... there we go. Do. Wonderful. So there you have it. You can toggle the light as well in the indoor range. Anywho, let's jump out of VR. Yo, out of VR. So, it's finally coming together. This has been, I was just mentioning to Ale this morning that all of the reasons that I had given in the past when someone had asked for night vision and thermals, and I had been like, nah, I don't think so, because we'd have to do this and this and this, and this would break, and this would have to be reconsidered, and we'd have to add this, and this would have to change. Every single one of those things has proven to be the case. So it's to say that, like, yes, in a certain way, like, it was always possible to do this, but roughly every difficulty that I had worried about in terms of implementing this, and a whole bunch of ones that I had not even anticipated or even knew were problems, have arisen, which is part of the reason why this has been in experimental at this point for months. There's just been a lot of things to change, a lot of moving parts. Always written just miles of code for this stuff, and just the sheer amount of the game that I've had to run around and tweak things in, which I still have so much work to do, even just to finish the thermal side of things. Like scene specific stuff that needs to be tagged in a particular way has been significant. But in my opinion, still worth it, because this is a game fundamentally about simulation. It's a game about like simulating so far into the details of a thing that we can see its imperfections, we can enjoy its asymmetries, we can think about that object as a technology itself, because we're experiencing a realistic enough simulation of it that we're not just getting this decimated abstraction. We're getting the, like, yeah, this is noisy. You're like, oh, it does this weird thing when something bright happens in our eyes. And so that's to my mind what one of the things that's always been so enjoyable about H3 period, and like what has the philosophy behind the way that we've implemented firearms in the game and other sorts of objects, which is like, get detailed enough to find out the ways in which that thing sucks. And so and yeah, and it's just been so enjoyable to explore night vision through that. And frankly put, just like it's been a good opportunity for me to like run around to certain other parts of the game that had been at this place of like, this effect is good enough, or it's broken, but I don't have enough of a reason to fix it, and actually fix that. Like a whole bunch of particle rendering in relationship to muzzle smoke and smoke from explosions is now significantly more accurate from a lighting standpoint. Like, to fix problems with flashlights and night vision, they had to be fixed the rest of the way. And so sort of like impact smoke, grenade smoke, and muzzle smoke should all take on the illumination of the scene around them significantly more accurately now, which is just absolutely delightful to have. So it's been, even though this has been a couple months about being very in the weeds in a very narrow domain in particular ways, the game as a whole has really benefited from it. And it's given me an opportunity to clean up and fix a lot of miscellaneous things that I don't think I would have had the motivation to do were it not for bringing this sort of system online. Cool. Well, yeah, so we're just going to continue testing this. Obviously, like, if you're playing around with these, give us feedback. Ollie's working on some final models for the actual night vision devices. I'm still converting over and manipulating certain scenes. I'm going to play with the lighting in Meat Grinder next to make it so that the night vision actually does something in that scene. I think I mentioned before that there's this difference between a scene that is absolutely 100% black and a scene that is just very, very dark, because a truly lightless scene like Meat Grinder, it doesn't matter like if the light is amplifying, like not like night vision goggles just amplify the amount of light there. If there's no light there, like any number times 0 is still 0. And so I need to modify the way that scene works and make sure nothing gets broken in that process for the night vision to actually work in it. So that's next on my list. I'm super de-stressed now that we have this floating point precision fix. Mind you, it's not that floating point precision isn't a problem in H3. It still very much is. If you go 5 to 10 kilometers away from the origin and you hold an object, you'll definitely see it jitter there. The difference in this case is using a whole bunch of like objects instancing and projection manipulation that I don't understand, but glad someone does. Essentially the trick is that those night vision goggles are actually at the scene origin, which allows them to not jitter while attached to your face. So it's a trick that works for that, in the same way that certain games have done a similar thing to make their view models not jitter from floating point precision when you're really far away. But it only works for those. It's not like something that can be generically applied to every object, for example. But yeah, so it is working in this case, and I'm just going to continue with this migration with the goal. Essentially, the goal, once there are no longer any showstopper bugs with this, we're going to move to alpha, make sure things aren't broken for modder folk. Hopefully, if you do mods, you should probably check in the latest experimental build just to see if any of the like little changes I've made over the while broke something, so you can get started on a fix. And yeah, once we have that and a couple NVG models, a couple thermal models together, we will push this out onto main branch finally. Because this has been quite. I gotta do 115 is gonna be smaller. I gotta stop getting mired over on the experimental branch for several months at a time. I would like to do slightly more, tightly timed updates. So. Anywho, hope you enjoy playing around with them, and I will see you all next week. Peace.